Good morning.
How are you?
Very good.
When did you go to sleep?
I think 4 o'clock. I'm going to go for a run now and do a little workout and then do a prime mind session.
Nice.
And then get started.
Morning, Flo.
Morning.
How was your last night?
Long.
Long?
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay.
Played poker first and did some analysis with Matthias Eibinger, and then we played a little bit of wizard and werewolf, so pretty fun night.
How long did Matthias stay?
Till 5 in the morning.
How do you like it so far? Do you think your game improved already?
I do think my game already improved, because I was like, I don't think I was unexperienced, but I had a lot of leagues and still have, and I wasn't studying quite frequently because in my life I have like university and football, and this is the first time where I study steadily, so I think for me each day the progress is visible, so cutting it down to pre-flop, I think I improved already, and I'm pretty confident in nailing down the ranges already, so
Nice.
yeah.
Gut, der 27 von 32 Punkten.
Is this DTO?
Yeah, and here we have Power Equilab, and we put in the ranges to see what the equities are on the different equities. Yes.
On this board.
Yeah. So we see here clearly, because this is our position, MP plus 2, which is the low check, and then it's the MP plus 3, this is the high check caller. And if we put in the ranges that DTO uses, which are the solved preflop ranges, and we realize, okay, on this board, on this specific board, we have a pretty clear equity disadvantage, which then leads to our strategy. So on a board where we are out of position and have equity disadvantage, we need to play really passive. And if we are in position and have an equity advantage, we can play really aggressive. So in this specific spot on Queen Deuce Deuce, we should have a low betting frequency and check a lot. So, and then we need to think about what specific hand we want to bet and which one to check, and, especially aces, because aces has a really high equity against everything besides a queen and doesn't need protection. It's a really clear check out of position.
Okay.
So we choose the selection, he bets small. There's no point in raising at this point because the in position player still has a lot of queen x. We ourselves have a lot of queen x. And so it's a pretty clear check call. And because of that, since the equities doesn't change, we still have a clear check, and he checks back. Now on the 3 on the river, once he checks back, we can discount a lot of his queen x combos, which increases the value of our aces at this point. We don't have a sizing which we can use as an sizing. That's pretty clear, because we don't have we could still be behind against traps like tens or queen 10, so ace all in is not the sizing to use here. Check is also the extreme, which we have a way too strong of a hand for. So it's really about deciding which one of these sizings here to use.
I would just go for the big sizing. We are so high up in our range, so I would bet overbet 125.
You would overbet this one?
Yeah.
I think we can pretty clear discount the block bet for 25%, which we want to have our weakest pairs, our weakest showdown value, which we can still attract value from his calling range. So I think we can discount these 3, and then it's the decision: do we want to bet 67 overbet? And since he has a lot of pairs that he's still calling, he has a lot of tens that he's still calling, I also think we want to go for the really big sizing, but I'm not sure. I think both options are possible. We just see if we want to choose the overbet or if it's a mistake. He calls, and he calls with the 10-9. So now we see the evaluation. On the flop, as we discovered, it's a pretty clear check, which comes from the equity disadvantage and the reason that we explained that we have a very clear value hand, but we don't need protection, and we can also not go for 3 streets. On the flop against the small sizing, you see suddenly it changes. We can mix in raises on the flop since he's betting a lot in position, but I still personally prefer the passive line with the check call. Once in the turn, it doesn't change the equities, and because it doesn't change the equities, we still have the same distribution than on the flop, and therefore we check a lot. And once it goes check check, we saw that we discarded all of these 3 options and we will be between both of these, but since he has pretty clear calls with his 10s and his pairs, we want to really go for the big size again, and that's how we come to the solution.
I don't really have special daily routines, so I'm just here to improve my game and my skills, and I want to get in a professional poker schedule. And yeah, we study poker every day in form like quizzes and that.
Nu vil jeg bare gerne fucking frem. Kan jeg ikke sidde med i den der bil?
I think that's for me personally the best way to learn new things, especially the last days, the pre-flop charts. We improved a lot. We have one special rule, and that's when something lying around. For example, I lay around my glass and I have to pay 10 euros, and yes.
Okay, so
I
that's
forgot it
how.
one time.
So you need to pay 10 euro. Okay, so that's the only rule everyone got in the house.
Yes.
Okay.
In the morning I wake up, and before I look at my mobile phone, I always take a cold shower.
Step up.
And then I have breakfast, and then I look on my knee. So that's my morning routine. And before every grind, I meditate for 20 minutes. And I also have some workout routines. I stretch out every 2 days and work out every 2 days. And on my workouts, I switch between like running or making something for the stomach or strength.
Okay.
I think I have to. We have some time.
What are you grinding? Anything special?
Everything and
Today?
anything.
Just another day in the office.
Okay.
And Pokercode free rolls, obviously.
Classics.
Hey guys, anyone playing anything special today or?
There's the
Yeah?
Pokercode free roll.
Pokercode free roll?
WSCP. Yeah, we're grinding it. Everyone is still in with quite a decent stack. So yeah, we're trying to ship this one.
Yeah, there's also the weekly Salad GG Masters free roll. Only available on the Pokercode skin, and if you rake $10, I think, you get a ticket, and I'm still in it. And last week I managed to win a ticket, and yeah, maybe we can do this week again.
Hello. Hi. Nice to meet you, Martin. Nice to meet you. Come in. The boys are grinding.
Are they grinding?
Yeah.
On a Saturday?
Hello boys, you drive with these shoes? What? You drive with these shoes from Denmark?
Yeah, so comfy. And like, this is the what do you call it? Almost our national
Birkenstock?
uniform.
No.
Yeah, Birkenstock.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Are you tired from driving?
Yeah. I mean, I had I think the trip was almost like 18 hours.
Wow.
And then I'm finishing off with this kind of shit weather. Like,
Fuck.
You want to eat something?
We just made halloumi. If you like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's also down here.
Hey man.
Boys.
I'm Roland.
What's going on? Let's go. Come on.
Servus, Christian.
That's how you do it in Vienna, right?
Yeah. Kind of.
Oh! That was an important one. Holy fuck. I mean, holy shit.
Wenn nicht 90 ist der eine los.
We have more than 40 blinds. We are deeper, like 50, 60 big blinds. And then the button flatted. It was a clear recreational. He played more hands than usual, so I give him a wider flatting range. And also the big blind flatted. And on the flop, I went for the C-bet because I thought the button has a wider range, more suited connectors, 1-gappers, 2-gappers, and so the ranges are weaker. And they both called. The turn brings the flush card, so it's actually not a very good card for me because both have a lot of flush draws, especially the big blind, and also the button who is flatting more suited 2-gappers and 1-gappers. So I opted for the check, and then the button bet into two people with a half sizing, and I just called. And the river is the 9, and he bet again half pot. And I can remember in this spot I thought he's not value betting worse, I thought, because also the big blind has a lot of flushes, and he's not turning like king jack, king queen with the diamond into a bluff. So I just snit folded. But in hindsight, I'm not so very happy about the fold because he's a recreational and he maybe is not aware enough of the spot that the big blind has a lot of flushes and maybe a value bets like ace-10 or like 8. So I think I never can fold there. So my question is, how do you adjust in such a spot to a recreational?
Yeah. I think first of all this could be a very good fold, simply because the way the two ranges, like both, especially when we are getting freeway to the river, that's not to the river, to the turn. There's no natural, if we just look at the big blind's overcall range, there's mainly only going to be ace-x hands and flushes. There's no really other draws on the flop, so I actually like the turn check. And when the big blind is betting, again, as you said, there's no really natural bluffs here.
The button bets.
Yes, the button bets. The recreation was the button, right? Yeah. I actually like the fold a lot, even though it seems pretty nitty, but I can't see it being value bet by worse. I would imagine a recreational would think when the flush arrives and there's the big blind which is calling, they are maybe a bit more scared than they should be. So I would assume he's going to check back a lot of 2 pairs, which is talking even more for folding river. I think the 50% button is something like, call me, I want to like, my hand is this amount of chips worth. But they don't want to bet too big to scare you away. Yeah, I actually like the fold, even though it seems pretty tough to put down on a straight, and especially when you have only put in one bet on the flop. But the way the ranges are structured, and I simply don't see two pair getting bet two street here. If it was against a reg, I could maybe see some possibilities that he's turning something into a bluff. But then again, it's really low portions of bluffs here available.
King, queen, with one diamond.
Yeah, but people actually... This would not really be a spot, especially when the turn calls, or the big blind calls. It's not going to be a spot I would bluff happily at all. And what are you actually supposed to bluff here? You have some backdoor spade, but that's you can bluff queen 10, jack 10. Yeah, especially because there is no other draws out there. So the density of flushes in big blind's range is just so much higher. So I think it's a good fold. I mean, I wouldn't be more inclined to call if we had the one of the diamonds.
Yeah.
Then I think I'm just calling always.
So you think the recreation is aware of the fact that the big blind has a lot of flushes and he's not?
I think they are more aware. I think they are too much aware of the flushes arriving. Like, oh fuck.
Because in a lot
like we all are.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
But don't you think the recreational would really bet too fair on the river?
I don't think so.
Is a recreational?
No, because I simply think they are too focused on.
Too scared.
Yeah, exactly. That they only see the hands they are beaten by, and maybe not see the hands they can beat. We're basically looking at an aggregation report, which is a function of PyroSolver, where you can run the same situation, but over a different files here, as you can see. So different flops. So for this specific scenario, this is small blind defend versus a MP. So it's the same ranges, but we are just changing the flop texture to understand the difference over a larger subset. So up here you can see this row here, row 4. This is the overall out of position equity. And we can see in position in this scenario over 700 something flops would have an average equity advantage of almost 57%. And we see the same here. This is the EV, which is just the expected value of the pot. And the pot is going to be this amount plus this amount. So we can see we have 2/3 of equity or EV advantage here. But then it could be nice to see what is the outliers on these textures. What is the textures where it's not the same, where it's and we can quickly just identify that by sorting it differently. So here we can see what boards we are actually supposed to check 100%, which is pretty interesting. I think it's pretty similar to what we are. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have 20 big blinds, so it's not going to change much. This is 22. But then this is some of the first things I'm trying to understand. Why is it like this? And what is the reason why? And we can quickly identify the same patterns, that we see the same kind of low card hands.
Is it because the small blind has so many suited combos?
Any other guesses?
I think the proportion of suited hands is of the whole range of the small blind is just higher than the opener. The opener has like a lot of broadways, offsuit broadways, which I think the small blind doesn't have. So the percentage of having flushes in his range, in his smaller part of his range, is then higher.
Yeah, but we also have to think about, it's not, when it's a suited hand, it's not only going to be in the same suit. There is 75% of the hands which is going to be no equity hands. So yes, it's a factor that there is more flushes, but as an overall range, the 75% of nothing is just hurting so much. The reason why we are actually checking this much back here, first of all, if we try to understand the logic of the low cards, because we can see there is a tendency of the lower cards, and that's mainly because we as a 22 big blind is not opening deuces to 5s or to 4s anymore, where the small blind is always calling them. So the nut advantage, or the concentration of the nut advantage for the out of position player, is higher here on the lower cards, because he's going to have all the sets where we don't. So that's also a reason. Another reason is the higher card monotone boards is blocking our opportunity to have flushes ourselves, because the main suited, the best flush, or the best suited hands we're going to have is going to be ace-x, and now the board blocks that. So now we only have king-x suited for flushes. Now we only have queen-x flushes, which is going to remove a lot of good hands in our range. If we look at this down here, I think it's somewhat similar to as we play against in the big blind. The density of the out of position players' good hands is just so concentrated around here. He's going to have a lot of the 7-6, if I recall it correctly. But again, all the sets here, and I still think it's pretty similar down here. And we all see it's like low card with a high card monotone. It's especially, I think you can't really use the equity here, because as an overall we still have a very strong range. It's just the density of the out of position, which we can see here. So the EV, or like the expected value, is a pretty good indicator of when there is a bigger nut advantage for the out of position. So we can see there's 5% of like difference. We can also see in the coloring that it's starting to be more light, so that means it's going to be more closer to each other. So you're basically trying to understand the logics behind the different numbers. So here I went in to see where is the highest EV, just to make sure that the assumptions we had before is in the same line. And we quickly see that it's especially the low cards, which is going to be the flops where the out of position is having a decent. He's never going to maintain or capture the lead, or like the EV advantage. So as a total, this number is going to be 100%, so it's going to be 66%. This number here is.
Dat is 5,8 pp in pot.
So we, from the small blind defending range, we saw that on the lowest EV board in position and in the highest EV board, we have still no big sizing, and even though we have the highers, so we can already realize that we should mostly bet small or check.
This is a pretty good indicator of, also again, understanding when and where we should use those like 1 to 5% of the bigger size. But already we get some sort of clarity, and yes, we can just use a smaller size, it's okay. And again, the EV laws of using this size only over this is going to be very small. There have to be bigger difference in the strategy before it's really going to hurt the 1/3, and that's why the 1/3 is just so universal use, because it's never going to lose much of EV when used.
Finally, food! Starving!
It's the first academy coaching session. Are you hyped about it? What do you expect from Matthias and Fedor?
I'm super pumped. They're two of the best players ever, two of the best coaches, so can't wait to start. Let's go.
It's cool to see the different approaches from the two guys, because they are very different in their play style, so it's very cool.
I found pretty interesting. This is also a hand Matthias played, maybe you can share in which tournament it was.
This was a 1K tournament, 1050. We can see Lena on our left.
Great. Station to the left. So the opponent we play against, our pylon, I actually do not know so much about him. Do you have any specific history with him?
Same. And I also think that in terms of how we structure the session, we will not cover this hand in such detail as the previous one. But I think the turn is still the most interesting street where we can deliver a lot of thought process from us, right?
Definitely. We're going to be a bit shorter on this one, but it's one specific concept that we want to share with you around a hand that comes up a lot of times. And I think there's a lot of confusion there, and we want to clarify that. So it's mainly about turn when equity shifts in our way. So the idea of this hand is button opens. We're again about 60 bigs deep. So our opponent has 65, so we're 65 effective. Matthias obviously has all the chips again. And we play a very, very regular scenario. He opens button, we defend big blind. So ranges for that should be, obviously he's a rather unknown player, so we don't know exactly how he plays, but we assuming somewhat optimal ranges and play accordingly.
Exactly. On this board, I would say on average, this board, at first it looks like very good for us, because we know big blind has low cards and the button doesn't have too much. But to be honest, it's not that good, because you're not defending that much 2-6 and 3x. So you would prefer it strongly if all cards would be a little bit higher. So our 8-5-4 would be significantly better for us than like the 6-3 deuce, I would say. But anyway, we face the third pot c-bet, and I think with our hand, especially, the decision is just a call. I don't see any alternative. It's not strong enough to go for value. We would need something like 6-5, where we have additional straight potential, and we just go with the odds and call, right?
Yeah, I mean...
What are you using, HRC?
Yeah, we're using HRC.
Oh. To calculate the...
So we're trying to calculate the...
During this, Igor is ruining the house.
Yeah.
It's the trophy.
So here I had an interesting spot, I think.
During we are calculating with HRC, Simon is destroying the house.
Yeah. So here we have a spot I wanted to check in HRC. So here
how much is the button jamming?
18. Yeah, he's jamming.
Easy fold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here, but I want to see.
Now you can fill in the blinds, the stacks.
So here you can fill in the stack sizes from the players. which are with me on the table. So here I have 17, yes, 19, 12, and me in the big blind with 16 blinds. And okay.
Now he's calculating,
yeah,
what?
now
But you have to put into an open, you have to also put in all in.
Genau.
Just put into X.
yeah, but I will.
Yeah, take it in the basic.
But I will do it in the basic. I thought I'm at the basic hand data already. So I'm here in the basic, and now the stacks are already filled in from my last calculation. And yeah, now I'm creating the spot. So okay, this is hand 2 with the basic. We have to spot that the button is shuffling. He's 19 blinds, and the small blind is calling. And now
Wait, you have to adjust the range from the button, because that's not very realistic, I think.
Okay, so I think
yes, way
15.
wait the mid 6-5 suited.
I
You
think you
can.
can king 9 suited. You can keep in.
Do you guys have a spare pitch?
I would discount aces, kings, and queens.
Yeah.
No,
I would keep tens and nines in.
Really?
Yes, yes.
I
Population
personally
is-
would also keep in Jack 9 and Queen 9 suited.
King 9 over would discount
I think that's.
9 8
I would also
suited.
keep King 8 suited. Keep in.
No. I would discount 9 8 suited.
So for me, it's really hard to find the perfect open shove range in this spot, because I think he is he should have not so
many open checks.
Yeah, not many open shoves, because here we have in the small blind. So I think he should raise 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, maybe shoving 5s, 4s, and 3s, or deuces.
I think open shoving 7s is also fine. I think 8s plus. I think open shoving 7s is
Then
fine.
discount 10s and 9s. Discount, but I would discount also 9 8 suited. Time for a quiz, Mario. What kind of quiz today?
We're not sure how to structure it yet, but something where we just have Simon as the quiz master and he.
Ah, okay. He asks the questions.
And the C-bet is going to be a preferable size of 50%. So mid-high.
On King 7 7.
No, first one.
5, 6.
So it was low frequency bet, medium size. Yeah.
Also low frequency bei dem Spot auch.
Yeah, low frequency, medium bet.
And also high frequency check, right?
What?
High frequency check is also a pointer.
Yeah, that's like when it's a high frequency. For example, if it's a full range bet, it's a very low. Like
If your bet range is the small size.
yeah, but it was more about the checking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when it's full range, it's like non-existent.
Wie ist es?
Mem, 1 point.
Hag, 1 point.
Guys, come on, man.
Is it I get 2 points?
Yo. Mario?
I was searching for an open door. I was looking for a peace of mind. It's a feeling that I tend to get.
Yeah, it was a really good first coaching, and we learned a lot about the early and deep stack play. And yeah, now we're ready to jump into the Sunday grind, and looking forward to the next coaching next week.